How can we be in a loneliness epidemic when there are 8.3 billion people in the world? And yet we all know what it feels like to be surrounded by people and yet feel terribly alone. The truth is, we've forgotten how to be villagers. We've built our castles, but we've forgotten how to lower the drawbridge, and more importantly, who to lower the drawbridge for. I had the benefit of growing up during the early days of the internet before social media, and I spent countless hours researching how to relieve this quiet internal ache. The ache of longing for closeness and being terrified of it. Emotional intimacy is built on a foundation of trust and vulnerability. And that can be terrifying and overwhelming at first because many of us did not grow up with that feeling of emotional safety and acceptance. This is exposure therapy. This is the power of listening to your body and very gently, slowly stretching the limits of your nervous system. Now, you guys know I like a good medieval fantasy analogy, or what I like to call castle theory. I've come to see my life as a castle that I'm responsible for taking care of. And I don't view myself as queen in a dictatorial sense, only in the sense that I choose a life of sovereignty. And for me, that has meant choosing the courage to overcome my feelings of learned helplessness and create the life that I actually want to live, to nurture the community that I want to be surrounded by, because no one is coming to do it for you. You have to build it yourself, brick by brick. But before we get started on this video, let me know in the comments, what is your biggest fear when it comes to connecting with people? Hi, it's me, your internet auntie. In today's video, we're going to go over how you can start to feel safe letting people in, and how you can nurture your own village. And by the end of this video, I hope to spark a flame of awakening within you. Not the wishy-washy enlightenment variety, but the kind of flame that makes you feel alive. A flame that sparks joy and courage that will allow yourself to connect with people in a way that is so meaningful and nurturing that in time, you will forget what loneliness even felt like. And I know that's a big claim. 15 years ago, I never imagined in my wildest dreams that I would feel so much love and acceptance from the people around me. You see me today, nearly 36 years old, pretty confident on camera, but all through my 20s, I had crippling social anxiety, depression, and chronic panic attacks. I felt like a ghost, just sort of passing through, but never really connecting with anyone. And I want to share this with you so badly because it's a kind of suffering that you don't have to endure. It's easy to go through life doom scrolling and complaining about how we've all lost our sense of community. Now, I'm not saying to never complain. We all have legitimate things to complain about. What I'm suggesting is to become conscious of how you're spending your time. How much time are you spending each day thinking these negative thoughts compared to how much time you're spending each day fixing the problem? Because you're not powerless in this situation. You can't have a village if you're not acting like a villager. Become the villager. I spent most of my 20s feeling that lack of community support. And looking back, I can recognize that I wasn't acting like a villager, let alone a queen. The problem wasn't that there were no communities around me. The problem was me. I moved around to different countries searching for that sense of belonging. And it wasn't until I started to act like a villager that I found my village. The world isn't a safe place, and I don't think it ever will be, but we can create little sanctuaries that we're safe within. I had the benefit of growing up during the early days of the internet before social media, and I spent countless hours researching how to relieve this quiet internal ache. The ache of longing for closeness and being terrified of it. I had heard the term intimacy before, but I thought it was related to something sexual. Many of you are probably aware of the term emotional intimacy, but you might still be at a loss as to how to create that or build that with another person. There's a lot of discourse online these days about emotional intimacy, thanks to wonderful people like Brene Brown. We hype it up in comments sections behind the safety of our keyboards, and yet we often don't take that first courageous step to put it into practice in our real lives. The walls of our castle are built up so high that no one can get in. And then we wonder why the castle grounds feel so empty. Or we have no walls at all, and in our desperation for connection, we allow absolutely anyone and everyone into our lives to do whatever they want. Emotional intimacy is built on a foundation of trust and vulnerability. And that can be terrifying and overwhelming at first because many of us did not grow up with that feeling of emotional safety and acceptance. And so it's alien to us. So we learn to either avoid intimacy altogether or spill our hearts to anyone who will listen. And sometimes those people will use your vulnerability against you, further damaging your trust in connection. But you can microdose vulnerability. You can microdose trust. You can microdose connection until you get to a point where it starts to feel safe. In my last video, we talked about how emotional starvation has similarities with physical starvation in the sense that when you're bringing someone back from the brink of starvation, it's not safe to start loading them up with calorie dense meals. Their bodies can't handle it. It's the same with emotional intimacy. You have to ease into it. When you're not used to emotional intimacy, your nervous system can panic because it feels so unfamiliar. Sometimes we swing like a pendulum, going from total isolation to finally building up the courage to open up to someone, and then we just open up like a case of verbal diarrhea, trauma dumping on them, and then feeling ashamed because we've just spilled our heart out to someone who's unable or unwilling to hold it. And then we retreat back into isolation, feeling as though vulnerability itself is fundamentally unsafe. So let me know in the comments, do you tend to isolate yourself out of fear? Do you have a habit of opening up way too much too quickly with people that you don't really know that well? Or do you swing like a pendulum between the two? I'm a pendulum. Okay, I'm a recovering pendulum. But vulnerability itself isn't the issue. You need to learn temperance. The word temperance comes from the Latin temperantia, which refers to temperature or the mixing of temperatures. And I'll explain the importance of that in a moment. But the modern use of the word refers to moderation. You would have heard the term all things in moderation. And those of you who are into tarot are familiar with the temperance card. So this will give you a deeper understanding of that, like another layer to explore. For the purposes of this video, we'll think of it like easing into things rather than diving in headfirst. Think of it like wild swimming. Swimming in cold water is so good for you, but it's a shock to the system. People who are used to it can dive in and enjoy feeling refreshed. But when you're not used to it, diving in can be extremely uncomfortable or even dangerous. Your nervous system hasn't adjusted. When I first tried cold water swimming, my nervous system literally interpreted that sensation as physical pain. And I know a lot of you have had similar experiences because I've talked to people about this and they're like, oh my God, yeah, me too. That's why I don't do it. So for the first few weeks, it took me about 25 minutes to get in up to my neck. I started with a single toe. I kid you not, a single toe. Waited until my toe felt comfortable. Then the rest of my foot. Waited until that felt comfortable. Then my other foot. Then took a step forward into slightly deeper water, not rushing to get to the goal, just allowing myself to simply experience the sensations of the cold water rippling around my ankles, and then my calves, and then my knees, and so on until I was up to my neck. Listening to my body and respecting when it's not quite ready for the next step. After a month, it only took me about 30 seconds to get in up to my neck. This is exposure therapy. This is the power of listening to your body and very gently, slowly stretching the limits of your nervous system. In many spiritual practices, water represents emotion. And so I think this is such a beautiful analogy for what it's like to ease into emotional intimacy with other people. Emotional intimacy does come with its risk, which is why you have to be selective about who you lower the drawbridge for. Your life is a castle, a kingdom, a queendom, and you're responsible for taking care of your village. There's a reason castles have walls. There's a reason those walls are patrolled. There's a reason those walls are patrolled by armed guards. And those guards are armed with discernment, intelligence, and intuition. Your castle walls are your boundaries. Connecting with people can really be so beautiful, but if you've got your castle gates flung wide open, letting all the riffraff walk in, they will shit in the streets, set fire to the buildings, and then sneer at you because your castle grounds are falling apart, even though they're the ones that did a lot of the damage. Most people are kind, but it's very dangerous to go through life with the naive optimism that everyone has good intentions. They don't. There are some seriously sick, malicious, sadistic people who take great pleasure in causing you as much suffering as you can possibly withstand. It's absolutely essential that you know how to identify these people so you can keep them out so they don't shit in your kitchen. Yucky. When you have your castle gates flung wide open, aka you have no boundaries, these particular type of people will destroy everything that you're building. They will undermine you, they will sabotage you, and they will bring you down. We want to be nice and we don't want to exclude anyone, but this lack of boundaries ruins it for everyone. And then we don't have the time or energy to take care of our villagers, the people in our lives, the people who treat us with love and respect. Villagers and allies are people who go about their business, unassuming, undemanding, not wanting to bother you because you're so busy cleaning up after a grown ass toddler that you don't have time to take care of their needs. You don't have time or the energy to have a mutually beneficial relationship with them. And you end up neglecting these people who actually care about you, the people who want to build something beautiful with you. So lower the drawbridge, but slowly. Once they've shown you that they want to treat your castle grounds with the love and reverence that they deserve. When you have castle walls and discerning guards who don't let everyone in, you are safe to be soft and nurturing to everyone within those city walls. And they will take care of you too. Excluding some people because of a lack of respect might seem mean, but it's actually what allows you to be warm and nurturing to everyone else. And now we'll move into how you can bring life back into the village. Okay, so castles, cold water swimming, drawbridges. Where the hell are we going with this? Trust the process. I've said it in other videos, and I will die on this hill. People admire us for our strengths, but they connect with us through our vulnerabilities. What's a small act of vulnerability that you could take today? What's a tiny fear that you could share with someone? Maybe you need to reduce your hours at work and you're worried about your manager's reaction. Try sharing it with someone. Just summarize it in a single light-hearted sentence. It doesn't need to be, nor should it be, a big, heavy 45-minute download with a stranger. The next time someone asks you how you are, be honest. Say to them, I'm okay, but I need to reduce my hours at work because my back is killing me and I'm just a bit worried about letting them down. And then shut up. Let them show you what kind of friend they can be. Do they empathize with you? Do they dismiss your feelings? Do they share a similar experience in a way that helps you to feel better so you can relate to them? Or do they turn it into a 45-minute lecture about how their life is so much worse and their problems are so much more important? The point of this exercise isn't to judge the other person as a good person or a bad person. The point is to discern what level of emotional intimacy and safety you can build with this person. Everyone deserves their own chance to show you who they are. And the only way to find out is to give them that opportunity and microdose vulnerability. So, if you're ready to dip your toes into the waters of vulnerability, we are starting a cult. There are some really thought provoking journal prompts over on Patreon for all free members, or you can join for just £5 a month. Click the link, the link below.